사랑하는 아버님, 오늘 이 자리에 모인 선남 선녀로서 아버지께서 세우서 싸우니 영원하신 부부의 인을 맺기 위한 거룩한 식전 후에 당신의 무한한 사랑과 축복이 같이 하시옵소서. 영계와 육계가 주시하는 가운데 저희들은 역사적인 새로운 가정의 전통을 세우기 위하여 순환의 길을 거쳐오면서 이 길을 개척해 나왔습니다. 이는 당신의 창조 이상 가운데 본연에 타락하지 아니했던 선남 선녀를 중심 삼고 선한 자리에서 아담 하와가 하나님을 중심 삼고 하나님의 사랑에 의하여 참다운 축복의 한날이 있었던 널 하나님을 중심 삼은 선의 부모여,
Hey, Will and David, what are you guys doing? Oh. Uh-huh. Watch for Harry. Watch for Harry.
What is your name?
Kazu Watanabe, or Kazuaki Francisco Watanabe.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
What kind of blue?
All kinds of blue.
Have you read Bluettes by Maggie Nelson?
No.
I recommend that book. It's about falling in love with the color blue.
Okay.
Have you seen Blue by Derek Jarman?
Yes. Any more blue questions? The thing about the church is that it defines everything about you, or it can, and it did to me, so that I had no practical understanding of the world. So my life purpose has always been defined by the church, which is basically absolute filial piety and duty to the Messiah and to my parents. I had no practical sense of what I was supposed to do, and I didn't care.
Butterfly! The butterfly key. The butterfly. The butterfly key. The butterfly key.
This is Yokkaichi, and Omata is playing with his new sword that Hiroko-san gave him. He's so proud of it.
Have you ever stolen anything?
Yeah, I've definitely stolen things.
Do you want to talk about what you've stolen?
Sure. I mean, just like silly things. I think there was a time when I was much younger when I sort of got a thrill out of like stealing things at convenience stores, like lipstick or stuff like that. My name is Abigail, or Abby Sayre. I guess it's hard to say. It was like a long process of leaving, but by the time I was probably 24, I was like out and not looking back. My world had I had been so expanded to the point where like the church became less and less necessary, and I could look at it more and more critically. So even in 2008, I was looking at it pretty critically. But I remember still going to church, like definitely still going to these big ceremonies at the Manhattan Center, and right across the street from Madison Square Garden. So, my family was definitely still in, and so they're still in to a certain degree. So I still, I still have to sort of manage those worlds too.
Oh, yes, they're not. They're thinking about it. Hi there.
petty reasons?
Oh, man. It's cool if I take a moment to think about this.
Sure.
I think out of things that bother me for petty reasons, I think that generally so many things bother me, but then the more I think about them, the less petty they seem. My name is Mitchell Ildo Henkin. I honestly don't know when I left because it was such a slow process. I assume I left when I left New York, but I think bits and pieces of it are still stuck to the bottom of my shoes. It was faded by then. But it didn't make the feeling any less strong because it was faded. I was at the crossroads of, what do I believe? What do I believe? And I discovered that I found more comfort in nothing, in just the chaos and darkness of the abyss.
Reverend Moon started his church in the 1950s in Korea, and then the doctrine of the church as I was taught is that my parents, were fallen people. They were not of a pure lineage, and that they had to, sort of atone for that by getting an arranged marriage and going through certain rites and rituals to cleanse themselves and start this new family, and that my sister and I were born because of all that sacrifice and because of the spiritual conditions they made and the things they chose to do by following Reverend Moon. My sister and I would be born different. We would be born special and sinless. And it's this very, that's the magical thinking of it. I don't remember ever getting a better explanation than that. That somehow magically my body can, I am different. I'm spiritually different than other people. That I certainly believed.
As I started leaving the church and had to figure out how to live on my own, it was really starting from a blank slate. And I didn't have parents that could give me guidance because they have no idea what the fuck. They were always, there's a degree of gullibility to allow yourself to be, I shouldn't say that. Existentially, it was a complete void. It was a complete lack of understanding of myself or what I should be doing. My father was an artist who painted paintings and sold them basically only to church members. So it's like a fake job, and that was my frame of reference for a career.
No, I want to get closer to, let's see, what did I think is a true believer? I'm going to be honest, it's hard. It's hard for me to even recall something like that because I don't believe any of that bullshit anymore. And so I don't even, there's a part of you that's I almost don't remember. Probably something sad. I just remember feeling really, really sad a lot of the time. Whether you're sad about the fact that you've broken God's heart and you've sinned and you've done something so awful that it's caused pain, or whether you're sad that you feel like the church, I'm sure I felt at some time that the church wasn't living up to its ideals, so I was sad about that. And probably inside me I was also just really deep, I don't know, I remember the last time that I really truly believed it when I got my heart completely broken. So I just remember feeling like I'm tired of feeling this way. But I definitely still believed at that point, so I just knew I was tired. I was expected to remain a virgin until marriage. I was expected to have an arranged marriage, have children. It's definitely not a choice not to have children, which was another incredible like bombshell revelation to me as a young woman. I was like, oh my God, this is a choice. Like I don't have to do that. It was pretty mind blowing. And you're expected to like do God's will and sort of like restore the earth to its original glory before it was put asunder by Adam and Eve and all the, you know.
It's a lot of pressure. It's so much. Like what they believe is what my parents, they got blessed one another as strangers and had to go through this whole 3-day sex ritual. It's bizarre. Beating each other with bamboo. Like, there's all this weird shit.
You're on camera.
May his parents deserve to raise him up to the study of the law, to the nuptial canopy and good deeds. Let us say amen. Amen.
We, as second generation, had to be perfect. We were the perfect generation. In their eyes, we were going to be the gods of the world. But with little g's. They did a lot of specifications. Gods with little g's, you know, like leaders. But still using the word God. Like, and they believed the world was going to be perfect by the year 2000. When it wasn't perfect by the year 2000, it was our fault, and we had to do a bunch of like conditions and stuff in order to like correct that, and then it was going to be perfect by another year, and it just kept on, you know. I don't know how they're able to keep doing that. Like, come on, guys.
It's like a perfect embodiment of God's feminine love and like make of a God-centered family where my husband and I believe in the Unification Church and we have children and raise them in the church and raise them to marry each other. And that in the world, I guess you're expected, like they want more members, they want more people to hear the divine principles. So I'm someone who's like burdened with teaching other humans about the way.
You're not just failing your family, you're failing the lineage of all mankind. Like, it was up to us to be the platforms that all civilizations stood upon. And I think that tied into a lot of my schizophrenic episodes as well. Like, if you're told you're going to be a god your whole life and you go a little bit crazy, you're going to think you're a god, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. The expectations were pretty crushing sometimes.
The most significant event or moment that I can at least symbolically point to for that kind of break between old and new is probably my divorce, which was a marriage arranged through the church, and which lasted several years after already leaving the church ideologically or in any practical sense, except that I have this relationship that lasted only or existed only because of the church.
I got matched, and I realized over the course of that matching, it's just like, I am terrified of this person. Like, I think I really like them. Like, I might even love them. I don't know. I shielded myself from feeling everything because I was not allowed to feel that before.
I felt more pressure from the community, I think, to go through with that than my parents. My parents were pretty patient with me. And I think to their credit, I grew up in a house where education was the expectation. It was expected that I would go to college and that it was perfectly acceptable for me to do that first and to wait, for matters of matrimony and all these things. And I really think that is a huge deal. Not everyone got those opportunities. I know more other people were pushed into fundraising or to get married really, really young. I know people that were matched at like 18. So I never had that pressure necessarily from my parents, but they did hint. They were sort of like, let us know when you're ready to find your special someone. And
like we would sit next to each other, and you guys probably don't see the shoulders up, but I was very tight into myself. Like right now I'll describe my hands are like between my knees and my knees are together. Like that all the time. I didn't know how to talk to this person. Like I could talk to girls that were friends, fine, but there was like just the implication that this could be something else was so overwhelming that I just collapsed into myself and I couldn't function around this person. And it was after like she broke it, or she made it so I would break it off. It was a really weird thing. I'm not going to get into that. But it was after that stopped working out that I think I had it. I realized that I was ruined.
Where's my partner? Raise your hand. I'm going to catch somebody. Who needs a partner? Quickly. Bolt. Wait, there's another man missing. Where's the man? Come over here. Wait.
One thing that sucks about being a part of something like this is that you feel like your life is taken from you, like even your memories aren't safe. So again, it's like I have to sort of think about that girl and have ultimate compassion for her, because she never should have been put in those situations. I never should have been asked to confess certain things about my private thoughts and life to like male adults who weren't my family. You know what I mean? Like there's so many lines that were crossed, and I was taught some really unhelpful things, and I was but at the same time, like man, I sang songs in the woods. Like we ran in the woods and we walked through waterfalls and we played music together. Like we sat around with guitars and really enjoyed making things. Like we were artists. We were, I don't know,
Yeah, I had very close, very meaningful friendships, many of which have lasted to this day, from the church. And I mean, when we were in high school, we had a band, and it was a really shitty ska band, which is embarrassing as an adult in 2018, but nevertheless, it was a very close group of friends. We would have practice several times a week, and I often look back on those times pretty fondly. A lot of it is embarrassing because it's so tied to the church, and the music itself was quite bad. Some of the lyrics make us cringe because some of them reflect Mooney ideology, either purposefully or accidentally. But nevertheless, it's mostly a positive memory.
I don't know what birthday this was. We were watching The Perfect Storm. I didn't want A Perfect Storm, by the way, for my birthday. But my dad loves that movie, and he'll get it any chance he could get. And we were watching the movie, and my dad was really angry at my mom about how much she spent on the birthday, and they were having this big old argument. My brother is trying to watch the movie, Levi, big brother, and he tells my dad, kindly shut up. My dad just walks over and stomps on his chest, and he had trouble breathing for a while. My mom called the police. The police came. That point, my mom was starting to take my dad's side. And then, like, the police kind of took my dad's side, too. It was very much a, yeah, if my kid told me to shut up, I'd kick his ass, too, sort of deal. And that was my birthday.
And I can't wait till I'm 3.
Oh, Eric. Okay, it's not time to cut it.
Hey, lick that knife.
You can look at it.
Wendy, looking pretty good, Len. Don't make...
So I feel like I have a degree of wisdom, but also an extreme naivety, both existing within me at the same time. Not everyone can say they were married for 6 years and divorced before they were 30. The flip side of that is now in my late 20s as a divorcee who's only had one relationship in his life, one romantic sexual relationship in his life. Complete naivety and not knowing how anything works in terms of dating, in terms of romantic love, in terms of sex. As someone whose a complete understanding of life has been erased, have to question everything. And I'm still struggling to find out what the point of any of this is.
I will say that I don't have as much of a sense of community in my life because nothing is more motivating than having a group of people that think they're doing God's work. People need other people. You know, it provides you with a sense that you're loved and cared about. And so I definitely lost some of that. I definitely lost this sort of like thing that I could tap back into where people have known me since I was 5 years old, like adults in my life, you know, that have helped raise me and experiences that I had with people. I chose to close the door on all that and I chose to remove myself. I wasn't pushed or running away from that. Like I was running towards life. Like I felt like I was going towards this like wide, expansive world where like it was pretty scary. Like freedom is terrifying, right? Like it's scary to like realize like, oh, I'm alone in the world. There is no God necessarily, you know, the whole story, that whole sort of like infrastructure that I had of the world, not true. It all sort of crumbles. What we are left with is like, that means I can make choices for like right now for my life. I can make the life that I want. And it can be messy and beautiful and full of contradictions and not clean and not pure. And, you know, there's no sort of like utopia that I'm hoping for.
I'm still trying to find a place something to fill that God hole. Like, I found me and me is great and it is big and a lot of the time it does feel fulfilling, but it's a process trying to find solace in the emptiness, and I do I built myself up, and what I do I did because of me, and what I do for me, but it's weird having all the answers and then not.